C-Suite Edge. I'm your host, John Light, President and CEO of Sabretooth Recruiting. And today, I got really lucky because I love working with regional, local, small town bankers in a sense, if I can put it that way, because they're so close to their customers. So I have with me, and again, I'm lucky to have him, Dennis Mikelonis. Hopefully I said that correctly.
You did.
Didn't mangle it the first time out, so thank you for that. And Dennis is up in Boise, in Idaho, which this time of the year is, let's say, a lot colder than any place I want to be. But thanks so much for joining me today, Dennis.
John, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be able to sit down and talk with you today, and I'm looking forward to having this podcast.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with it. And let's kind of get the ball rolling, Dennis. I mean, people who listen to the C-Suite Edge, they've heard my voice plenty of times. Yours is the new voice, but maybe start us off with and tell us about yourself. Maybe give a minute and a half or so rundown of where you're at, how you got there, and what really drives and motivates you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my name is Dennis Mikelonis. I'm live, work, and play here in beautiful Boise, Idaho. Currently serving as the Chief Lending Officer for Idaho Trust Bank. We're about a $220 million bank headquartered directly in Boise, and been in banking now for about 12 years. Started off my career actually right here at Idaho Trust Bank as an intern. Really got into the industry because of a career counselor in college that I met with. Went to school over in Montana at Carroll College. That's in Helena, Montana. So talk about cold in Boise. It's much colder over there, but beautiful state, beautiful city. And ultimately, growing up, I never envisioned myself getting into banking. And I think that's probably a pretty common story when you talk to a lot of bankers that are in the profession today. And I attribute to that to essentially not knowing about the opportunities within the industry. So I give a lot of credit to Carroll College and the career counselor I met with nearly 15 years ago now, just educating me on the opportunities within banking, and essentially started out as an intern here at Idaho Trust Bank in the summer of 2013. I worked directly underneath, at the time, the CEO of Idaho Trust, doing anything from important board document preparation to putting together Excel spreadsheets on loans and deposits. And then also, of course, like any intern, doing the grunt work of washing windows or running personal errands, I should say, for my boss at the time. But I just fell in love with the professional atmosphere of a bank, and just the professionalism and the type of clients and business owners, and being involved in the community, where I wanted to make this my career. And I knew that probably about 3 or 4 weeks into my internship. So after my internship, they hired me on here at Idaho Trust as a management trainee, where I spent essentially about a month and a half in each and every one of our departments. And
I'm
fortunate.
Rotational program.
Rotational program. And I'm fortunate and blessed enough to work here at Idaho Trust at the headquarters, because we had all of our departments right underneath one roof. And really, that program took me about 6 to 8 months or so to complete. And it was capped off with actually a teller position, which I really enjoyed, because that was front lines. You got to meet with your clients and customers of the bank every day and help them with whatever they needed. Got to know them on a personal level and really enjoyed that. After that, just got more in the trust and wealth management side of the business. I mentioned we're about a $220 million bank, but we also have about 1.1 to 1.2 million of assets under management in our trust department. And I really enjoyed that too, just meeting with people, working through their estate plans, making sure that their trust language was set up in a way that if the bank's going to manage those trusts, that we're doing it in a way that makes sense to them now, that there's not going to be any surprises for their heirs whenever that time comes. So, and then really just to summarize, over the last 6 or 7 years, I've been focused more on the the commercial banking and private banking side of the house, where I am working on maintaining relationships with our top deposit clients and our top loan clients, while also being fortunate enough to lead a team of very successful and knowledgeable individuals here, who are also taking care of their clients from any banking services that they may need. So,
Let's talk about that a second, because one of the things I love about not being a mega bank, right, is that you've got to get next door, adjacent, shoulder to shoulder with your customer base. You've got to be able to get in depth, and sometimes you got to listen to their issues and their challenges, their thoughts, their dreams, their ambitions. I've always maintained there are a handful of very sensitive and very personal and individual decisions we all make throughout our lives, right? One is obviously your career path, where you go from job to job, or pursue whatever your dream or goal is, or our goals are. But another is financing a home and your financial management of whatever wealth a person may try to accumulate. I find that's very personal. And when you go and you get a loan, you're kind of, in a fiscal sense, stripping naked in front of somebody, which is never a fun experience. I don't care how good the numbers look. You're right. It's always like, oh, now we got to do this again. To me, a good banker is involved or available to be alongside, shoulder to shoulder with their clients or customers through those challenging processes. Is one of the things I like about local and regional banks and services of that nature. And I guess I have a couple of questions that relates to that, because even though in some respects you're relatively early in your career still, right? You've worked your way up the ladder in a very directed sense, I suppose I could say, to where now you're chief lending officer. So you get involved in a lot of the bowels of the beast that are out there, in the details and the nitty gritty. Tell me a little bit about this, though. When you look at Idaho Trust and the work you do, who do you focus on helping, right? Because even a bank, you can't be everything to everybody, right? So where do you and your solutions and your team best fit and help the market?
That's a great question. And first, I have never heard the analogy of it's like stripping naked in front of your banker to get a loan, but you're so right. I mean, the amount of documentation that we have to collect from 3 years past, some cases 4 years or more, past, it's definitely can be vulnerable for our clients. And what we really try to do is focus on making them feel comfortable, making them know that their financial that they're sharing with us are extremely confidential. It's one of our biggest policies here. And that only the folks that need to see the financials are going to see them. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. If you're working with us, I mean, you're doing something right? Because we're a community bank and we're there to help. So I appreciate that analogy. But to answer that question, I thought maybe it'd be good just to give you a quick background of Idaho Trust Bank, and because it really does go into kind of the type of clients and the type of people that we do serve. So we were founded, actually, I'm relatively young in my career, but from a grand scheme of things, our bank is also relatively young. We were founded in 1994 by two brothers, Daniel and Thomas Prohaska, who at the time were practicing attorneys. They were up in the northern Idaho area, Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint, another beautiful area, by the way. If you ever find yourself in northern Idaho, definitely check out those places. But they were running their Prohaska law firm at the time, which was primarily estate planning with a little bit of business litigation. But the primary focus of law was estate planning. And what they were seeing in the late 1980s, early 1900s was the disappearance of what we refer to as the 100-year Idaho-based banks. Banks that have been practicing in Idaho for the past 100 years. They were being acquired, merged, and with a lot of these regionals and nationals. And being estate planning attorneys, they relied on these local Idaho-based banks to help with the trustee services that banks typically provide. And quite frankly, when banks were being acquired and merged, they were losing the sense of community, right?
Yeah.
Rather than
Yep.
walking down to your local branch and talking to your trust officer, at the time you were forced to dial a 1-800 number and tell your story 4 times until you get to the right person. And quite frankly, their clients hated it. So
Yeah.
literally out of the back of their law firm in 1994, they founded Idaho Trust Company, which strictly served as corporate fiduciary trustee for a lot of the
Okay.
trusts that they were managing. A couple years later, they both retired from the practice of law and focused entirely on Idaho Trust Company. And we did that for about 10 years of our existence. In 2004, we moved down here to Boise, the headquarters of where we sit today. And then in 2006, we opened up Idaho Trust Bank. It was actually Idaho Trust National Bank and now rebranded Idaho Trust Bank. So realistically, John, we've only been doing banking services for a little less than 20 years, and we've only been in business for just slightly over 30 years. And I wanted to give that history when you ask the type of clients that we really focus on servicing. I mean, we focus on servicing everybody within our community, but obviously, as you alluded to, some banks are good at banking certain type of businesses while other banks are
Right. Right.
not. So our niche really, it tends to be the professional type niche. I
Hmm.
would argue to say that there's not a better financial institution within our market that really understands and knows how to bank attorneys. Quite frankly, we were founded by attorneys, so we really
Yeah. It's
excel at.
natural.
It was natural, exactly. And
Yeah.
we excel at banking, attorneys. Another industry that we have some exclusive products for and really do a good job of taking care of is the physicians and the medical professions,
Hmm. Hmm.
doctors, dentists, whatever that may be. We have some very unique services and products that we tailor specifically for them. And then, the last main industry, and this probably goes a little bit to our wealth management and our trust business being so large,
Hmm.
is, the multi-generational wealth, family office type of clients. We
Yeah.
do for the community bank size that we have a very unique approach in being able to service those family offices if need be. And it's
Well,
that's been
let me ask you this
yeah,
question. Let me ask you this question because I think it's important. It's not just about who we service, but let's say something pithy, 20 or 30 seconds. What's the biggest problem you can solve for someone?
that is a great question. Um, I would just say being a one-stop shop for every
Hmm.
financial service that they may need. I mean, we can do everything from opening private banking checking accounts for the individual clients as well as their children and setting up a cash
Hmm.
fund sweep so they can transfer money to and from at a very easy way to banking that individual's business. So let me just back up. I would say probably the number one service where we provide value is the private banking service. And that's where we
Private
take
banking.
take individuals that have been very successful and we provide them with custom tailored banking solutions to make sure that they are literally a phone call, text message, personal visit in their living room away from an
Hmm.
experienced banker. John, banking is everybody knows banking is a commodity. It's a service that you can get in any market at any time. I would say what really that makes us different is we're local experts that are available to help. And we can do that due to the scale and the size that we are right now. It's very oftentimes let me say it, it's very frequent that I hear one of my bankers meeting with one of their clients in their living room at home to sign
Hmm.
some documents or going over to help deliver Artie or check scanning machine at their office or their home office, and
Hmm.
just really providing that extra level of service goes a really long way, and it makes our clients feel special. And that's probably ultimately what we're all out here trying to focus on, right? Is making our clients feel special because they truly are.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Was it Maya Angelou who had a quote out there that people won't necessarily remember what you did or didn't do, but they'll sure remember how you left them feeling or made them feel. But when you're
Absolutely.
dealing with high net worth individuals, business professionals, you're dealing with private banking clients. You got to deliver the goods as well. And for the growth that Idaho Trust has experienced and the assets you have under management and the space you're in, I mean, I think that the proof is sitting there for someone to consider. But I got a final question for you. Well, next to final question, and it's one I like to ask a lot because we've come through a tumultuous time period from our economic history. We've come through COVID and the associated lockdowns, and it's like a tsunami lapped up onto the shore and it's going back out into the ocean and it's dragging stuff with it, and we don't know what's going to be left and what's going to prosper and what's not. Maybe a little brief blurb, if you could, on how you see the state of the economy right now relative to the folks that you try to serve best. Okay.
Hmm.
And where do you think things are going to go over the next 3, 4, 5 years?
John, it broke up there. Um,
That's okay.
it,
I was going to
it
ask,
was a state of economy, and then it broke up.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
where is it? How do you see current state today? And how do you
Mhm.
see it developing here over the next 3, 4, 5 years? And just, something pithy as it relates to your primary client base and your business.
Sure. And how I would answer that is I think that the folks that are truly going to be successful in the coming 5 to 10 years are the folks that are willing to adapt to change. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen so much change in the last 5 years or last decade that it's been astronomical within our industry, but not only our industry, but every single industry that we serve. I mean, you mentioned COVID, which led to a lot of work from home, a lot of video, to a lot of electronic signing versus just 10 years ago. I mean, we weren't doing any of that. And now, I mean, going into 2025, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, a lot of the tools out there that are available to not only us as a bank, but our clients to make them achieve a much higher level of success is available at their fingertips, which has never been the case before. Where I see currently, as far as the banking industry goes, in 2020, 2021, and 2022, banks of all sizes across the country saw an extremely large increase of their overall deposit base, their core deposits. I mean, you
Right.
saw some banks increase their deposits by 2 times or 3 times more than what they've averaged over the last 5 years prior to COVID. And over the last, I would say, 24 to 30 months or so, and this is a national trend, you're seeing these deposits shrink, 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 which causes a liquidity issue for some institutions that a lot of banks are focusing on right now. So that's one challenge in the banking industry that I foresee going forward through 2025, 2026. Another
Right.
is I would just encourage banks and of all sizes to continue to look over their loan portfolio and make sure that they're managing their asset quality, right? So the quality of the loans that within their books,
Yeah.
making sure that they're checking in with their clients, they're getting the updated financials if they need to, and making sure that everything is going well. And if there is a problem that's on the horizon, they're getting out of it in front of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at some reports, credit cards are at an all-time high. Same with auto loans, and delinquencies are creeping up there close to an all-time high. So I think in the banking industry in general, two focuses is focusing on your liquidity and then focusing on your capital, which coincides with your asset quality, to really
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you understand the clients that you're serving and how you can work through any turbulent times that they may have, because that's what community banking is all about. We're here not only in the best of times, but we're also here to support you in the worst of times. So
That's an awesome
that's
attitude,
probably
Dennis.
yeah. I mean, that's why we're in business, right? We're we're here to partner with our clients to help them grow and achieve success. And quite frankly, if they're not successful, we're not successful.
Right. Right. No, I hear you. So on that note, if we're going to be successful, we got to help our clients be successful. If someone is looking to make a change or needing services they're not getting, how can they find you?
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to drop my email. You can reach me at DJM, so that's D as in Dennis, J as in John, M as in Michael, at idahotrust.com. Or you can find me through our website at idahotrust.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Dennis Mikelonis. Be happy to
Awesome.
connect with anybody.
No, that sounds good. And I'd tell folks listening this as well that if you are connected with me on LinkedIn or reach out, I pretty much accept everybody. But Dennis and I are connected, so it'd be extra easy to find him that way. Dennis, thanks so much for opening up and sharing your time today and your insight into what's going on. I really appreciate getting the community banker view. Although I understand Idaho Trust is so much more than that, kind of hidden underneath the surface, which I think is a great bonus for somebody who needs your private client banking services, especially.
John, thank you for having me. It truly is an honor, and I'm a big fan of yours. And thank you again. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes this year and for the next few years in the future.
Sounds great, Dennis. Thanks.
Take care.